to the president until it was verified.
Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says it is imperative that Congress get to the bottom of it.
Fox's Kristen Fisher, the Pentagon, the CIA, the Director of National Intelligence, and the National Security Advisor have all issued statements blasting the release of intelligence information. New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand wants to know what happens now.
We certainly should start with increased sanctions and figure out exactly who was involved in this plot, what part of the Russian government approved it, and we should sanction those individuals as well as sanction Russia more broadly.
Several Democrat members of Congress will be briefed at the White House on Tuesday. A key court victory for conservatives. A federal appeals court has restored the voting restrictions in Wisconsin, which a lower court had previously declared to be unconstitutional. Among them, limits on early voting. A court hearing Monday in Minneapolis for the 4 police officers charged in George Floyd's death.
Derek Chauvin, charged with second-degree murder, appeared via video from prison where he's held on $1 million bond. The other 3 former officers who are charged with aiding and abetting murder appeared in person. 2 are out on bond. None of the 4 defendants have yet to enter a plea. The Hennepin County judge issued a stern warning to all parties involved, including public officials. No more leaks or public interviews which could prejudice the case.
Fox's Matt Finn. America is listening to Fox News.
Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro in Hagåtña and Tumon are now open for takeout and free delivery services in selected locations. For more information, call 479-2652 or 3 or 969-2652. Open Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro brings you island hospitality with the true taste of modern Chamorro cuisine at the comforts of your own home. They take your favorite local dishes and serve them with extra flair you will only find at Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
As we stand up to coronavirus by standing back with social distancing, Bank Pacific reminds you that you can come to the bank without going to the bank. Use many of our other delivery platforms like online banking at bankpacific.com, accessing cash at our ATMs, shopping with our debit cards. For businesses, we have secure cash and check drop windows, and we are employing a new smarter mobile app with remote deposit capture in the next few weeks. We're all in this together, and together we will win. Bank Pacific. Brothers but branches, we place roots. Member FDIC.
Arizona reimposing some restrictions as the coronavirus cases in the state rise.
Today's executive order will pause the operation of bars, gyms, movie theaters, water parks, and tubing.
Arizona's Governor Doug Ducey says the bars and restaurants can apply to reopen in 30 days, but they'll have to prove they're following all health guidelines. The mayor of Kansas City threatened after issuing an order making mask wearing in public mandatory.
Mayor Quinton Lucas, who is black, said he was also called a racist slur in the text. But more disturbing was the part of the message saying he should, quote, swing from a tree, a reference to hanging. Mayor Lucas told Fox 4 in Kansas City he's no stranger to angry messages.
Rarely do they have things that I think are akin to death threats. It was a local number, and so that's even more disappointing. I referred it to the police department.
Neither Mayor Lucas nor police are releasing the name attached to the number. The mayor did respond to the message in a tweet saying, let's do better. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
More violence over the weekend in and near Seattle's occupied zone, but still no move to end the occupation.
Chief of Police Carmen Best saying they need to be able to get back into the area before the situation gets more out of hand.
We absolutely believe in the cause. We absolutely support Black Lives Matter. But, you know, this situation, as your reporters are walking around, you can see that it can be dangerous and not acceptable. And so we're going to have to work through this.
The mayor of Seattle says officers will eventually return to the East Precinct soon, which was evacuated nearly 3 weeks ago, but it is unclear exactly when police will get back to the Capitol Hill precinct.
Fox's Jeff Paul. New pro-democracy protests erupting in Hong Kong, even as China's parliament passes new legislation to crack down on them. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
You've got a job to do. Having the right equipment for the job is critical, and East West Rental has the exact tools you need. Get it done faster with the right stuff, whether it's landscaping tools, concrete tools, lifts, trucks, lights, generators, trench boxes, welders, tents, tables, and chairs. They're here to help you tackle any project you're working on, big or small. Open Monday to Saturday, 7 to 5, closed Sundays. Find what you're looking for at East West Rental Center in Upper Tumon or call 646-1463.
Hofade. This is Kayla from APL Guam. Here at APL, our expertise and extensive network can help you grow your business and reach out to more markets. As a responsible carrier, APL is also committed to a sustainable future, whether it's protecting the environment or investing our efforts in giving back to the community. Our dedicated team in Guam and the U.S. mainland are here to support you. Call 588-4651 or visit apl.com.
Rent, lease. What does Horizon do for you? Here's a clue. Advertising, marketing, screening, inspecting, instructing, leasing and signing, collecting and complying, inquiring and assessing, coordinating, repairing, renewing, enforcing, evicting, moving, cleaning, rekeying, communicating. Do it yourself and you'll find it taxing. We work hard to keep the vacancies low, so at the end of the month, you collect the dough. Proven and trusted. Horizon Properties. We do it all. 777-7792.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific. Banking on the Pacific for 65 years. Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is also brought to you by Security Title. When you absolutely need confidentiality in your real estate transactions.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie. The only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. We start that way every day. I start that way every day.
Me too, sir.
Yeah.
I just don't say it out loud when you do, but I feel it right here.
Yeah, I notice you shake your head rhythmically as I'm repeating those sacred words.
Oh,
right?
because we're finding out how important it is even more now today than ever.
Yeah, in this in these days of Democrat non-government. Yeah, we don't need no stinking police. We'll just let the mob run wild, the Democrat mayors and governors are saying. Yeah. Okay, well, let's go straight to Demi Ekotny. Funny, I thought I put them in my briefcase. I'm going to have to do it from my iPad. I thought I had put them in my folder.
Dog ate your homework, sir?
Yeah, well, I guess no, as you were, I got it. I'm just not. Hello, Bob. Program starts at 4. Yeah, I had a Biden moment there for a second.
Is that a thing, sir?
A Biden moment?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's a Biden moment, Ray.
I have many.
Ray.
Real Joe, sir.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Real Joe.
But I often do have Biden moments, at least a couple a day.
Okay, all right. So here we go. Starting out with PDN. Dr. King wrote, "We need strength to love." So here we are with Chloe Valdari of the USA Today. And guess what this column is about? It's about love. Well, okay. Dr. Martin Luther King. I suspect if you went to the Chaz right now, surrounded by Seattle as it is, and asked one of the residents of the Chaz, what do you think about Martin Luther King? You know what the response would be? Martin Luther who? Yeah. Okay, and then I've got the Post here. GMH's financial woes keep repeating. Its survival is at stake. With Wuhan virus in our midst, Guam Memorial Hospital's ongoing cash crunch hasn't been getting as much public attention recently. but thanks to the persistence of the Office of the Public Accountability. Now, if the Office of Public Accountability is persistent, to whom do we assign the credit, Real Joe Cruz?
Me, sir?
You. I was thinking B.J. Cruz.
Possibly, sir.
Since he's the public auditor.
That would be right.
Yeah. But thanks to the persistence of the Office of Public Accountability and the external auditors hired to look at GMH finances, we have a new reminder that GMH continues to be in a precarious standing financially. The OPA's release of the audit of GMHA's fiscal 2019 finances on Monday brings back into focus concerns expressed at the end of nearly every budget year that GMH's viability to continue operating remains under clouds of doubt. It's not new that the GMH is left to carry the burden left behind by patients who leave the hospital with no means or intent to pay for the services rendered. Why should anybody pay? Everybody knows that there's no expectation. If you just go to the hospital and say, I ain't got no insurance. Oh, okay, well, come on in. Because everybody knows the expectation is you don't have to pay. And the hospital never goes out and collects from anybody. A total of $18.1 million was determined uncollectible from self-pay patients in fiscal 2019 alone. I wonder when the board of trustees at the hospital determined that they weren't going to collect that $18 million, I wonder if they brought the board of spelunkers from the Port Authority up to the hospital to give them in-service training. How to sacrifice large amounts of money without trying. If the hospital were a business, it would have filed for bankruptcy by now. Each year, more patients leave the hospital with unpaid bills, many of which remain unpaid, if not for the garnishments of tax refunds. But patients who are unable to pay aren't the only ones who have left the government hospital with unpaid bills. Patients covered by Medicare, Medicaid, and medically indigent program accounted for $97.2 million, or 55% of GMHA's gross patient revenues in 2019. But GMHA collected only $33.4 million, or 34% in the audited budget year. An average of the last 5 years indicates GMHA collected reimbursements of only 44 cents for every $1 billed. For the 3M patients, the report states, 3M, of course, is Medicare, Medicaid, and Medi-Cal. It's not Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. Health insurance companies were billed $51.3 million, or 29% of GMHA's grand total billings in 2019, but the government hospital collected only $35.2 million, or 69%, the audit found. An average of the last 5 years indicated GMHA collected only 71 cents for every dollar billed to third-party payers. Such a deal. Certain health insurance companies have disputed some of GMH's bills, so both sides need to hash out their differences. Unpaid patients' billings amounting to $187.6 million in fiscal 2019, a $47.6 million increase from $140 million in fiscal 2018. Without a reversal of this situation, GMH does face financial challenges that get heavier each budget year and could one day be insurmountable. It also faces costs related to its aging building, including a leaky roof and a possible replacement of the entire structure that could cost an astounding $731 million based on the Army Corps of Engineers estimates. While GMH's predicament is understandable to a certain degree, we would also like to see the government hospital take proactive steps to try to live within its means. As a result of overspending, GMH has had to disregard some of its legal responsibilities. Without sufficient funds, GMH did not meet its obligations to fully pay income taxes that had been withheld from employees' checks. The hospital authority also failed to remit all retirement fund contributions it was supposed to send to the Government of Guam Retirement Fund. In the audited budget year, GMH's liabilities for delinquent and unpaid taxes with the Department of Rev and Tax was $5.3 million. And it had accrued unremitted retirement contributions of $747,000. Past withholding taxes, primarily from 2018, were not remitted or not timely remitted due to poor cash flow, the audit report states. This kind of brings us back to Kathy Kakigi's kerfuffle. Did I read in the paper that Kathy Kakigi has gone to the hospital as a controller?
I don't know, sir. I haven't read that. Is she?
If she has, then she's probably brought her kerfuffle with her. Which of these laws do you want me to violate?
I remember clearly, sir.
Yeah. Past withholding taxes, primarily for 2018, were not remitted or timely remitted due to poor cash flow. In fiscal 2020, GMHA has committed to paying the principal amount for this obligation, the audit states. Operational funds were used to pay these taxes, and the principal balance was paid in full as of June 2020, according to the audit. Also, the $747,000 GovGuam Retirement Fund retirement contributions were remitted as of October 2019. It's good GMH has cleared these issues, but this isn't the first time GMH failed to timely remit withholding tax payments and retirement fund contributions. GMHA's financial challenges were also exacerbated by its failure to hold down expenses it could control. For example, GMH's operating expenses increased by $7.1 million, primarily due to increases in fringe benefits of $6.3 million, from changes in pension expense, contractual services, and supplies and materials of $3.5 million. The hospital increased its full-time employee count by 78 people. 78 people. Yeah, I wonder how many of them got to stay home and get paid. 50 of the 78 are nurses. Still, even with the hiring of nurses, overtime costs for nursing increased. The increase in staffing and nursing and professional staff support came at a cost in overtime and other pay, the audit states. When the COVID-19 pandemic is over and the flow of federal funds towards helping GMH turns into a trickle, we will again hear the hospital's cries for a bailout. We might see a hearse parked in front of the legislature. We may see so many doctors wearing their white coats down there that an ambulance will have to be called to treat the innocent bystanders suffering from white coat hypertension. Yeah. We will also then hear politicians promise to help GMH to survive its financial troubles. And then there will be another issue of the day, and the distraction will obscure GMH's troubles from public view. Without systemic changes, the hospital's financial woes will keep happening. The auditor's concern about the hospital's ability to continue operating must be a question of when. Auditors could one day say, I told you so. So let's talk about some structural changes. How about, here's a structural change. I think management might be the key. So maybe we need a different nurse to be our governor.
Possible, sir.
Yeah. So I know that people are turning, let's see, people have about 40 minutes to turn in their packets to be candidates for the 36th Guam legislature. Oh, by the way, I read in the news that I guess there are going to be 3 candidates for the Democrat nominee for Congress.
Is that right?
Yeah. Mike St. Nicholas is running again.
There you go.
Robert Underwood has thrown his hat in the ring.
Democrat as well.
Yeah. And then you got Will Castro.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
He's a Democrat?
Isn't he?
Oh, I'm not sure.
I don't think he is either.
I thought he was a Republican.
Ah.
Sometimes he dresses like a Democrat, though.
Well, it's kind of hard to tell. You know, when I heard, hey, Will Castro is running for Congress. And I said, really? Which party? Yeah. So anyhow, putting Will Castro aside and talking about senators, all of the senators, this is my prediction, all of the senators, when asked questions, what about GMH? You know, GMH is really important. It's our hospital, and we have to deal with it. It has to handle everybody who comes in. What are you going to do for the hospital? Oh, I'm going to be a real champion for the hospital. Yeah, fine. What are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to be on the hospital side. You know, nothing, absolutely nothing. Now, if I look through my political prism here, I see that if one of the challengers, who is reasonably credible, comes out and says, I'm going to introduce legislation at the beginning of the legislature to either sell the hospital to one of these hospital services from the mainland, or hire them to come in and run it, or enact a law that would franchise a hospital to come here and work here. We're not going to continue doing what we've done because it does not work. Count on me to make a dramatic change as far as the hospital. My prediction is anybody who said that and can back it up is going to get elected. How many people do you think will say that, Real Joe Cruz?
Many, sir.
Yeah.
But how many will actually do it?
I don't think anybody will even say it.
So you're going to give them the benefit of the doubt, sir?
I never give people the benefit of the doubt, Real Joe Cruz. Yeah, there will be the usual tap dancing, you know, telling us that the hospital's important and, you know, we got to take care of sick people and they have to handle everybody who comes to the front door. Yeah. Okay, let me see what Jimmy's got to say here. Good afternoon, Jimmy.
Hello.
Hello, Jimmy.
Oh, yeah. No, I just got a theoretical question.
All right,
now,
Jimmy.
Imagine, okay, I'm making, I got a job. I'm making $55,000 a year. And I got a little side gig. And so I apply for unemployment, like $900, $600 a week extra. But I've already got that $55,000 a year job. I get the paychecks every 2 weeks. So, and they say, oh, no, this is not right. So do you think I'm going to get punished for that?
If it were you, Jimmy, I would hope so.
Yeah, but I don't work for government.
Just wait for the card, Jimmy, and I'm going to get into that in the card, okay?
Good.
Thank you, Jimmy. All right. So we're starting off right with a call from our Jimmy, right?
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Gawa ko business rako vidare sukseven ios kusiker COVID-19 SWOS. SWOS FRA semar coronavirus ira pada sibo sabuera ria warau fitne virats seria QS of charts on neighbors. Sibo sabuera ria seves puri raive pot water kisi boots. Me for correct sea at sibo rosits niri kewe siresin ikapesepes serimun. Sibo for rewisats arabi kisi ratsuran semar coronavirus. Klitzkie porraus kekeri uriat Esiresin afito seriatsu office Micronesian Resource Center Eco Radio Station Not Choice Broadcasting Mewa U.S. Department of Interior Office of Insular Affairs.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Horizon Properties. Call 646-7616 or 777-7792. You can also visit them at horizonpropertiesguam.com.
Now, more Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie. Spitting truth like watermelon seeds at a summer picnic. Call now, 888-TALK, 888-8255.
Spit that truth, sir.
Here we are, where common sense is an uncommon virtue. I like that ad that they run during the day, fighter for truth and justice. Well, that's a little bit over the top, isn't it? I just wanted everybody out there in our international radio listening audience to know I'm back. So Ishmael is back, too, with one of his poems. Here's what he says. He's the one and only, the real Joe Cruz, always pushing buttons, his fingers bruised, energetic and entertaining, never depends on a snooze. Braving the 19th floor, gets his courage from booze.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Pierre, Frenchie has a nice comment on that. Here's what Frenchie says. Beep, beep.
Nice.
Yeah. Hey, Real Joe Cruz, the font on this is so small. Can you fix the font tomorrow morning?
Yeah, I've had to remind to check Ray. I got to ask Ray how to.
I've got good eyes, but boy, it's a good thing.
Yeah, you do have good eyes, sir.
All right, so here we go. Blue Star goes to none other than the Post today. And yesterday, I spent the whole day on Zemi Ikotni on the Post because it dealt with the port. And we spent a whole 2 hours on the port. And I got to the end, and there's one key item that I had to try to talk over Ravel's Bolero. So I got to come back to that today and finish up. But clearly the Post deserves a Blue Star for that editorial yesterday. It was very well done. So once again, I'm going to break with tradition. I will give the Post the coveted Blue Star. Squared.
Wow.
The Blue Star squared.
Nice.
Yeah, it said good. Not 2 blue stars, but the Blue Star squared. And as far as the daily news is concerned, you gotta not try harder, daily news. You gotta try. Okay, so let's go to the card. And this is what I've got on the card. I've got Troy versus Janela. I've got Tina versus Emergency. Troy versus Janela, we're up to 45 days now and no muting and no censoring. Tina versus emergency. She's gone 16 days and not encountered a danger to the public health or safety. I've got to wrap up. Inri Luis Baza, A.K. Winston Wolf. And then I've got Luis Muñoz versus unemployment. Jimmy will like this one. I've got Jim, as you were, Michelle Armenta versus James W. Moylan. You remember what the W stands for, Real Joe Cruz? Woke.
Woke. Okay.
Yeah, he introduced his hate crime bill, you know. So he went from a good conservative Republican to a social justice warrior in one swell swoop. Or is it fell swoop?
Yes, sir. The second one.
In one swell swoop.
Yeah. Either way.
Yeah, okay. And then I've got versus Patrick Lujan. Chadwick Moore versus the LGBT industrial complex. I got to get this done today because today is the last day of Pride Month. I've got the legislature versus shortfall. Commissar DeNorcy versus the pirate. Angel Sablon versus the Treasury. Got a lot of stuff here. I don't know how far I'll get. And let's see, before I start, I've got a call from Frenchie. Okay, maybe Frenchie wants to explain that comment that he made to Ishmael's. Frenchie's come back on Ishmael's comment. Remember what Frenchie said?
Beep, beep.
That's it. Very well put, Frenchie.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Bob.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I couldn't call yesterday. I was driving and I was listening to the show on the radio.
All right.
And it was kind of interesting. This story about the port is the gift that keeps on giving, it sounds like.
Yes, sir.
It's a little confusing when you don't really understand the whole thing. So thank you very much for trying to clear it up for a lot of us. So it sounds like a lot of inefficient managers, and when there was one, then they all gang on the good managers. And it would be interesting to see what Phillips is going to do, because it sounds like a little Rory might have a lawsuit coming up on his tail, because he's basically, if what he's saying is not true, then he could be facing liability on this. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, you know, sometimes the approach is it's not good enough just to win. You have to destroy the other side.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're trying to do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little puzzled. I was listening to one of Roy, what's his name, Torres' show in the evening, and he's really has it for Phillips. I don't know what's going on, or if the Torres of the port somehow in a family member of Torres. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I find it. He sounds like he really has it for Phillips, and of course we know he doesn't like the governor, the former governor, and so he's a little partisan on some of his approach. But I thought he was way out of line on what he was pushing. Anyway, I thought it was funny also to see. I don't know if you read the paper today, but it says that Senator Muñoz had filed for unemployment and then decided she made a mistake.
That's on the card, Frenchie. Yeah.
Oh, it's on the card.
Yeah,
so I will withhold my comments for the card.
All right.
But I thought that was a pretty amazing story. And then, of course, there is Will Castro, the rhino. I think the governor, if he's a real rhino, which he looks like, the rhino should be on the list, put him on the list of invasive species and try to save our coconut trees, you know.
Well, at the beginning of the show, I had to have the real Joe Cruz straighten me out, because I saw in the paper that there were 3 running for Congress. Starting out with St. Nicholas, then Robert Underwood, and Will Castro, and I said, wow, 3 people going after the Democrat nomination?
Yeah, that's right.
And then the real Joe Cruz says, well, I thought that Will Castro was a Republican. I'm not sure. And
No, he's a Republican in name only.
And then I said, I don't think he's sure either.
I think it depends on how the wind turns.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So then we have Underwood. That was as big as a house coming running against Michael St. Nicholas. But it's very funny, you know. I see his supporters putting, "Oh yeah, a man of integrity and unifying." Underwood unifying is the godfather of identity politics on the island. I mean, if there is somebody that has pushed identity politics on the island, it's Underwood. You know, I mean, there is no more. You know, he's always at the edge of being a racist, and it's just amazing, you know, how he's getting away with so many things. You know, with his grandfather look. I think he's one of the most dangerous politicians on the island, and I hope he will be soundly rejected. He probably counts on his on the separatistas, compañeros, and all the people that he has been kind of putting under his wings over the years at Guam and other things. But this is really, it's like the never Trumper going after Trump. Here it's the never San Nicolas trying to take San Nicolas out. And I think they are really shooting themselves in the foot, because San Nicolas seems to be quite popular across the board with a lot of people who would not automatically support a Democrat, but support him because he gets things done. You know, at least he's doing things done. Well, Underwood and what was her name, the lady that he defeated? The other delegate?
Madeleine
Bordayo. I mean, those were dinosaurs of another time that just were watching over for the party and nothing else. So it's going to be an interesting couple of months until the primary is over. I'm sure we will have the opportunity to talk about that quite a bit. So it's I think the line has been drawn in the desert, like Obama would have said.
I'm very interesting to see how Robert Underwood is going to take his separatist views to the Congress if he's elected. Will he go to the Congress and pound on the table and say, "Set my people free"?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. I don't know if if the people that write this speech are that talented. So, but it sure sounds like we're going to have at least a couple of months of very entertaining political stories, and I'm sure the Democrats, being Democrats, a lot of destroy people type of politics. So, unfortunately, but we're going to see a lot of that. So, here we come, and now we have to take our little list and listen to Bob every day.
Could be worse.
All right. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate it.
Good talking to you, Frenchie. Let me see here. Pam Duvall refers to somebody as Little Willow. I wonder if she means Robert Underwood. I'm just taking a peek at Facebook here. Okay, let's get back to the card then. Starting out with Troy versus Janela. I told you that it has been 45 days since Crystal Paco San Augustine let Janela off the hook. And since that time, 45 days, no muting and no cutting off reporters at press conferences. So probably, now it's always difficult to determine what is the cause and what is the effect, because I would expect most people to give Tall Tales credit. They're saying Tall Tales is watching Janela and they're starting a count up So Janella knows she doesn't dare mute out anybody or cut off any reporter in mid-sentence because she knows that tall tales will come down on her like a ton of bricks. Don't you think that what it is, Real Joe Cruz?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And then Tina has gone 16 days and has not found any danger to the public health or safety, causing her to waive public hearing requirements on any bills. Of course, she doesn't have any bills coming to the floor either, so that might have something to do with it. Okay, next item on the card is Henry Luis Baza, a.k.a. Winston Wolfe. And I suppose I better explain. Luis Baza is now working at the port. He's a deputy director for administration. He was brought in almost as if by magic when Connie Jo Shinohara, who was the chairman of the Committee for Justice to the Port 7, resigned abruptly. And Winston Wolfe, also known as Luis Baza, was there to come in and clean up the mess, which he apparently has done. So and I've named him Winston Wolfe. Got this little squib here. Remember Harvey Keitel as Winston Wolfe? Of course you do. His appearance in Pulp Fiction as the Fixer, the cleaner who knew how to take care of Jules and Vincent's boneheaded mistakes, was a model of efficiency under pressure, a no-nonsense performer who got the job done with style. Winston Wolfe, a.k.a. Luis Baza. So Luis Baza Luis Baza made a grand entrance as Connie Jo is making her exit. He distinguished himself by winning the board's confidence to send him before the Civil Service Commission on July 2 for a hearing on the Bernadette Stern-Mano case. And I'll clarify, no, Luis Baza, also known as Winston Wolfe, is not a lawyer, but that doesn't seem to bother anybody. He's going up there, and he may not have to go after all because he submitted a memo which told the board of Spelunkers, formerly the board of directors at the port, that he'd spent most of his adult life working in the merit system of the government, and he'd read all of the cases dealing with the Port 7, and he could assure the board that the best thing to do was settle. So sure enough, they gave him authority to settle. So we went through that. We spent the whole day on that yesterday, and the one thing that I didn't have time to do, I hope I can find my papers here. Probably not. Yeah, let's take a short break while I'm looking for my papers here.
As we emerge from the effects of the global pandemic, Security Title is rethinking how to best serve our customers. With our houses clean and closets reorganized, here's a reminder to take a look at the title to your house and other real estate. Is your trust in order? Is it time to update your wills? Do you have the best interest rate available on your home? As we get back to work, there's no better time to revisit your most valuable asset, your property. Call the professionals at Security Title. We are here to help.
Wow, nice smile. So perfect and all.
Thanks. I owe it all to Dr. Robert Yang and his smile team. They do wonders for a healthy, happy mouth.
Got teeth? Don't wait until they hurt. Schedule your routine checkup and cleaning with Dr. Yang and his smile team. Suite 119 in the East West Business Center, Upper Tumon. Call 647-8702 or 3.
The best thing that happened to teeth since toothpaste.
Dr. Yang and his smile team.
They make smiles happen.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. They're open in Agagna for dine-in, takeout, and delivery services from Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Call them now at 479-2652 or 2653 and get your Mezcla fix today.
So here we are with the Port 7, and as I mentioned, I spent 2 hours on the Port 7 yesterday, telling you everything you needed to know about the Port 7, but didn't know where to look. And at the end of the program, I mentioned the statute of limitations. I didn't bring the paper with me. I remember what it said, so I'll explain. The ordinary, well, put it this way, I went through Bernadette Mayno's notice of proposed adverse action on Friday, and some of the reasons that she had been terminated were because the things that she had done could be characterized as crimes under 9 GCA, and it was laid out in the final notice of adverse action. So the fact that Winston Wolfe, also known as Luis Baza, has the ability to settle those cases does not mean that there's no criminal liability. Those cases could be settled, and a prosecution still could lie for the criminal allegations contained in Bernadette Mayno's final notice of adverse action. That is, if a prosecutor looked at it and determined that he could marshal facts in such a manner that he'd have a reasonable chance of convincing 12 men, good and true, that she had committed the crimes alleged without excuse or defense. So a prosecution could lie. Now, we have something called a statute of limitations, which most people understand. And that means that if a crime occurs on day one, you can't come back 10 years later and prosecute someone for the crime. Statutes of limitation are for finite terms, with one exception. There's no statute of limitations for murder. And I don't think there's any, I think the statute of limitations for criminal sexual conduct involving a child is open-ended also. But with respect to the things that are alleged in Bernadette Mayno's final notice of adverse action, the ordinary statute of limitations is 3 years. But we have an interesting provision in our criminal code. I think it's something like 8 GCA chapter or section 10 something or other. And what it says is that if a person commits a crime while he is a government employee, that person and anyone who conspired with him in the commission of that crime, government employee or not, can be prosecuted for that crime during the time that the alleged criminal is still in employment of the government of Guam, and for 3 years after. So there's a long fuse on that bomb. So even those people that, even if there is a settlement, that's something that could happen for 3 years after the last one leaves the government of Guam, if in fact there was a conspiracy. I also mentioned at the end of the program yesterday that given the performance of our Attorney General leaving on a jet plane, leaving Camacho, unless he could find some way of blaming it on the Air Force, he doesn't seem to inclined to prosecute much of anything. So, but of course he's not going to be Attorney General forever. So it's not over. As Yogi Berra would say, it's not over until it's over. And it won't be over, completely over, until 3 years after the last of the alleged conspirators leaves the government service. Okay, so much for Henry Luis Baza, a.k.a. Winston Wolfe. Next on the card, I have Luis Muñoz versus unemployment. And there's a story here from PNC. Senator Munya admits application for employment benefits was a mistake. On air with Patty Arroyo Tuesday morning, Munya explained that in addition to being a full-time senator, she also has several singing gigs at local hotels and establishments. She also teaches at local gyms. Since everything shut down with Wuhan virus, she lost... Real Joe Cruz, where's that sad music? She also teaches at local gyms. Since everything shut down with Wuhan virus, she lost that extra income. Since everything shut down with Wuhan virus, she lost that extra income. Wow. That left her with only $55,307 per year after she lost that extra income. She said, despite making $55,000 a year as a senator, that loss of income affected her overall intake. And that's what she understood the program to be for. If it affects a new term, your overall intake. She said she withdrew her unemployment claim after learning that it's based on a cumulative total income, meaning her earnings as a senator disqualified her. Now, I'm going to stop here for a minute. You know, what she applied for was, in effect, unemployment, right? An unemployment payment, which means that you don't have a job, you can't work. So maybe she thought, well, since at the legislature I don't work anyhow, she is the least productive senator this time around, if not forever. So maybe she's thinking, you know, I don't work at the legislature, so I ought to be eligible for this. Or then maybe on the other hand, she's planning for next year. It's a sad story. You know, she was just down to 55. After she lost that gig employment, she was down to $55,000 a year. No wonder she was so solicitous of the 31,000 people plus on island who also are applying for that unemployment money, because they did lose their jobs. And they're not senators. Munya also stated that she... Oh, okay. More sad music here, Real Joe Cruz. Munya also stated that she's the sole breadwinner in her home, and that ultimately any loss of income will inevitably affect her ability to provide for her dependents. Wow, I'm glad the break is gone. You know, too much of this sadness at one time just really drags me down, Real Joe Cruz. Stuck with a $55,000 a year income. A bigger question in all this is how Munya's application information even reached the media. That's the bigger news, right? Well, you know what might have happened? There might have been a reporter that went out and did his job and did a little digging, instead of waiting for the press releases to drop in their lap. So this is the big question is not Munya saying, I'm making $55,700 $307 a year as a senator, but I still want more money. I want to apply for that. That's not the big story. Here's the bigger story, according to PNC. A bigger question in all this is how Munia's application information even reached the media. In other words, how did the media get a hold of this embarrassing information? If she is embarrassed.
Yeah, isn't there some privacy issues regarding those documents?
Well, it's the bigger story, according to PNC.
I see.
Yeah, according to PNC. A bigger question in all this is how Munia's application information even reached the media, with the senator saying she doesn't know how that breach of information. Now, what is a breach of information?
A release.
A breach of information. I can see how you could breach confidentiality or maybe even breach a person's right to privacy, but I don't think you can breach information. Breach means to break. The senator is saying she doesn't know how that breach of information happened. She was not the one to contact media. Now, that's a surprise, right? And she sent her letter rescinding her application on June 20, 2 weeks ago. So how, wow, this is a mystery. You know, when I first read this, and when I read it in the other media, I thought, geez, God, Senator, you're making $55,000 a month, and you think you're going to be eligible for some poverty-type program? I mean, hello? I thought this is really interesting. This is quite a story. This has got tall tales written all over it. But I didn't realize until I read this PNC story that what the bigger question is. And a bigger question in all this is how Munia's application information reached the media, because it's embarrassing, right? Yeah, it's certainly nothing that you guys went out and dug up, is it, PNC? The end of the story. David Del Isola, the director of Guam's Department of Labor, told K57 Tuesday morning that while he can't comment on specific cases, they take privacy very seriously. And if any confidentiality issues arise, they'll be dealt with strictly. Now, I don't know what the confidentiality dimension is. It's not, it's not something that, it's not something like the Second Amendment that I've taken to heart. I don't know if there is a confidentiality to dimension to applications for people applying for ex gratia payments. And if there is, I'm going to make a bold statement right now. There shouldn't be. There should not be. We should know the people that are applying for ex gratia payments, this being the prime example of why we should know who's applying for these payments. Okay, well, I'm going to try to overcome my sadness here for the next 7 minutes during the big halftime show.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Corona cases up. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. Several states reporting increases in the number of infections. California reporting a 45% hike in 1 week.
Governor Gavin Newsom says among the most concerning things is an increasing positivity rate. It's now at 5.5%.
Not surprisingly, hospitalizations went up 43%. ICUs tracking with about 37% increase over the course of the last few weeks.
19 counties are now on a watch list. 7 of them, including Los Angeles, have been ordered to close down bars.
It's Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. Arizona's Governor Doug Ducey also pausing the operations of bars and restaurants and water parks in his state for 30 days. Dr. Anthony Fauci of the White House Coronavirus Task Force says COVID-19 is baffling.
We're still learning about it. This is the most extraordinary virus that we've had to deal with literally in the last 100 years since the pandemic of 1918.
Dr. Fauci on the Fox News Rundown podcast. The White House aggressively denying a New York Times report that the president was briefed on intelligence reports that suggested Russian spies were paying the Taliban to kill Americans in Afghanistan.
The CIA director, NSA, National Security Advisor, and the chief of staff can all confirm that neither the president nor the vice president were briefed on the alleged Russian bounty intelligence.
White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, the Associated Press, quoting unnamed sources, says the White House was briefed on the intelligence last year. But Republican Florida Congressman Michael Waltz tells Fox News it's common knowledge that Russia supports the Taliban.
To me, this really smacks of partisan talking points of hearing Russia and the president and trying to make hay of that in an election year.
China has approved a contentious new law to allow authorities to crack down on what they deem to be subversive and secessionist activity in Hong Kong. America is listening to Fox News.
Oro magunom, matana lom suman kumin healthy and lessness. Karingin kumniki mitsaye nakshike sinjing kinyan fashiluklan masenge. Inwangin takayani and wangin napashali, matana lom suman. Akayakom ace mongle ashosh kamofal esukumines be vitamin nasum. Karingin gubsifena in niceness in tia apashali. Overpowered to gungom na yen, tia kalmotom, infame, inwelum, e aknasnas yen kumatakyan. Inaksafye akola. Arela emergency contact list lom, aroy nash mo aknasnas kaonlo in nomsuman, nakarangin in jash mit masin nomsuman. Aro makuno minako ye aknasnas yen kuam in niceness aim safe. Nanak manas, matana in nomsuman. Message saying ye masin manyatlu, Micronesian Research Center at Choice Broadcasting.
Iran has branded President Trump a criminal for a drone attack 6 months ago.
An Iranian prosecutor saying he's issued an arrest warrant for President Trump over the killing of a top Iranian general in January. Qasem Soleimani's death in a U.S. drone strike sent tensions between the countries soaring.
Well, this is another political stunt.
The U.S. Special Envoy for Iran, Brian Hook, dismissing the move.
It doesn't surprise us. It's the kind of propaganda that I think we're certainly used to.
The Iranian prosecutor says he's asked Interpol for help, but the International Police Agency saying it does not make political interventions. Simon Owen, Fox News.
A former police officer who terrorized Northern California as a serial burglar and rapist and then went on to kill more than a dozen people pleaded guilty Monday to murders attributed to the Golden State Killer. Joseph D'Angelo Jr. repeatedly uttering the words guilty and I admit, part of a plea bargain agreement that will spare him the death penalty for a life sentence with no chance for parole. A wind-driven wildfire has destroyed homes and forced evacuations in a rural Southern California desert town near the Salton Sea. The fire erupted Sunday evening in Nyland, an agricultural community about 100 miles inland from San Diego. As many as 20 homes have been destroyed. Another launch is planned for Florida today.
SpaceX, the company owned by Elon Musk, is planning to launch one of its Falcon 9 rockets from the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station today. This rocket is on a contract for the U.S. Space Force and will be delivering a new GPS satellite to orbit. Today's launch is the 11th this year for SpaceX between its own launches, its military contracts, and its work for NASA. SpaceX today is planning to recover the Falcon 9 rocket and reuse it in the future. In Broward County, Florida, Eben Brown, Fox News.
And I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro in Hagåtña and Tumon are now open for takeout and free delivery services in selected locations. For more information, call 479-2652 or 3 or 969-2652. Open Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro brings you island hospitality with the true taste of modern Chamorro cuisine at the comforts of your own home. They take your favorite local dishes and serve them with extra flair you will only find at Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
As we stand up to coronavirus by standing back with social distancing, Bank Pacific reminds you that you can come to the bank without going to the bank. Use many of our other delivery platforms like online banking at bankpacific.com, accessing cash at our ATMs, shopping with our debit cards. For businesses, we have secure cash and check drop windows, and we are employing a new smarter mobile app with remote deposit capture in the next few weeks. We're all in this together, and together we will win. Bank Pacific. Brothers but branches, we place roots. Member FDIC.
You've got a job to do. Having the right equipment for the job is critical, and East West Rental has the exact tools you need. Get it done faster with the right stuff, whether it's landscaping tools, concrete tools, lifts, trucks, lights, generators, trench boxes, welders, tents, tables, and chairs. They're here to help you tackle any project you're working on, big or small. Open Monday to Saturday, 7 to 5, closed Sundays. Find what you're looking for at East West Rental Center in Upper Tumon or call 646-1463.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
So here we are, big halftime show, and we're back to the card. Luis Muñoz versus unemployed. One of the saddest stories I've heard for a long time, Real Joe Cruz, that Luis Muñoz didn't realize that when she applied for the unemployment payments, she had to report the $55,307 that she earned as a senator. And let's see, the PNC news story, Senator Luis Muñoz says it was a genuine mistake that she filed for unemployment benefits. I wonder what a non-genuine mistake would be. You know, I know a lot of times we talk about, hey, I made a wrong mistake. But this was a genuine mistake. Do you ever make genuine mistakes, Real Joe Cruz?
Sir, I do things all the time. And most of the time I don't say sorry because I know exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's deliberate, right?
In my case, most of the time, yeah.
So this was a genuine mistake, meaning, what could that mean, a genuine mistake? I'm too dumb to understand that if I'm making $55,000 a year, I'm not eligible for any of these ex gratia payments. Would that be genuine? I don't know. A genuine mistake. She filed for unemployment benefits. On the air with Patty Arroyo, Tuesday morning, Muñoz explained that in addition to being a full-time senator, wow, a full-time senator, she also has several singing gigs at local hotels. She also teaches at local gyms. Since everything shut down with Wuhan virus, she lost that extra income. She said despite making $55,000 a year as a senator, that loss of income affected her overall intake. She must be a math major. And that's what she understood the program to be for. So you know, like if, if Eddie Calvo lost his part-time job refereeing basketball, right? He'd be entitled to this unemployment insurance money, right? Senator, fiscal responsibility, integrity, sharpness. Got a call coming in, Real Joe Cruz. It's probably Louise Munia wanting to tell me what a genuine mistake is. So that's as far as this story goes, but I think I better add this to the card in the same way that I added Troy versus Janela and Tina versus emergencies. Because it may very well be that Louise will get turned down for Section 8 housing, or, it might possibly be that they won't refill her Quest card. So we need to kind of keep up to date on these things. I don't know, it looks like government overreach to me. So much for that. And let's see, I've got our Carl on the phone, and after our Carl, I'm going to go to also known as Sam. Okay. Our Carl, did you apply for that unemployment insurance?
No, I didn't. I didn't lose anything.
Wait, whoa! You didn't lose anything? Why is
No, not really.
Why is that important?
I don't know. Just basically, I didn't.
Have you been working?
Unpaid work.
Well, then maybe you could call Louise Munia's office, and she could help you put together your application.
I'll think about that.
All right.
I'll give it a lot of thought.
Okay.
Yeah, well, not technically. I don't think there's anything technically illegal about it. It kind of skirts the line of, I just think it's a bad look when we've got thousands of people who have lost their jobs, and many of them have lost all of their income. And what makes it especially ironic and painful is that the political class is the one that put them in that boat by this ever-extending quarantine, lockdown, and all this other stuff. So that makes it especially painful, I think, to people who have been suffering with these policies for months, and especially hard to bear, I think. So I think there's a lot of people who are not going to forget this at the polls. They are definitely not going to forget this. And we've just seen another example of this. We've had 5 dead, and anyone that dies is a bad thing. It's definitely terrible. But the 2017-2018 flu season, over 80,000 Americans died. The worst in 40 years. And one thing we didn't do is we didn't shut down the entire economy, because that economy feeds tens of millions, hundreds of millions of Americans. We did not do that. And, it's unfortunate, but if we don't want to have any deaths, then they should just put in place a 5-mile-per-hour speed limit and require everybody to wear helmets whenever they drive, and bubble wrap themselves.
If it saved just one life, our Carl, it would be worth it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That, and so the governor was predicting at one point as many as 6,000 deaths We've had 5. I think we're at 200 plus that have been diagnosed with the disease or the illness. And I believe there are many, many more, thousands more, that have actually come down with it and just never knew it. There was a period of a few days where I had excessive flow of mucus for some weird reason, and it didn't feel like any cold I ever had. I kept blowing my nose, especially in the morning, and I just wonder if I could have gotten it. And we'll probably never know, because of testing to find out who's got the antibodies. But I suspect that there are many more people that have actually gotten it and had no symptoms or minor symptoms, and they just overcame it and didn't realize it. I think at some point the common sense thing to do would have been to do, once we found out who this disease tends to attack, the elderly, people with underlying illnesses like COPD, asthma, and et cetera, would be to target our efforts on protecting those people. I have an auntie who's 91, and the family decided that, my nephew decided, it was like a son to her. He told everyone, back off, don't anybody come to see auntie first a few weeks until this dies down. And, that was our personal choice. We decided to do that to keep her safe. She has no children, so we're her children. So that's what we did, and she's still alive. She hasn't been affected by it. So if the government wanted to do something, that would have been the common sense thing to do, is to try to figure out strategies to protect the most vulnerable and let the rest, as much as possible, go back to work and feed their families, provide shelter, transportation, all the things that, that keep us going. But unfortunately, I think this is the first time in American history, in world history maybe, that we've actually tried to overcome a virus by quarantining at some point everybody, the people who are sick and the people who are not sick. I don't think that's ever happened in world history, and I think there's a good reason for that.
True enough, Arcaro.
Yeah, anyway, just a few thoughts I wanted to drop into the well there and see what ripples.
Well, let us know how it comes out when you make your phone call to Senator Luis Muñoz about getting some of that unemployment money, okay?
I'll have to give that a lot of thought.
Well, I guess that's more than what she did. Good talk. Talking to you, Arcaro.
Okay, Bob, thanks. Great show.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and let's see. Got to check this name again. It's also known as Sam. Hello, also known as Sam.
Yeah, well, Paul tells you're hitting a good spot today, and you're helping Ray Gibson's morning show and his prognostication that this legislative group is the dumbest group in history.
True enough, yeah.
I just can't believe that that's something someone in that position would have actually had the unthought of applying, I guess, for lack of better terms.
We used to have a word, brassy. I don't know if people use that word anymore. Brassy?
Well, it's a big adjective, but, it depends on your point of view, I guess.
Yeah, because it's pretty... brassy means grabbing something that you're really not entitled to.
Yeah, I mean, there's underemployed and overemployed and overpaid, but unemployment, I don't think fits her picture.
That's true.
But I think the wrong questions are what is the Sherlock Holmes dog finds things because what didn't get said? I guess.
Yeah.
What didn't get said was, why didn't she, as one of 15 powerful people on the island, put up a fight for the closures of all these hotels and gyms so she could go back and make money?
True enough, yeah.
I mean, if she really wanted her money back, she could have got 7 other people to stop these executive orders and open her singing gigs and her gym teaching gigs and everything else.
If I gave the real Joe Cruz 30 seconds worth of time, he'd say, it's not what she did, it's what she didn't do. Right, real Joe Cruz?
Sir.
So that's my points, and Ray can pat himself on the back with proof
Yeah, boy.
that one finally stepped forward or stepped into it, I guess.
Very good. Yeah, thank you very much.
Have a good show, Tall Tales.
Okay, also known as Sam. Thanks for calling. So, there's that old saying, it's better to remain silent and to be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. So, Senator Munoz says it was a genuine mistake that she filed for unemployment benefits. Okay, so I got Dr. Vince Akimoto on the line, probably wanting to talk about the Wuhan virus. Correct, Vince?
Hi, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
With that kind of introduction about warning about opening thy mouth, it would almost kill talk radio, but we'll try to be courageous and say what we want to say anyway.
Good for you, Vince.
Thank you very much. And I'm hoping that we can say this maybe perhaps in front of the infamous legislature, and although I may not always agree with everything that they do, I do hope that they're smarter than Ray alleges, because we did vote for them, so that might tell more about us than about them. And again, no one said the legislature had to be a bunch of geniuses. They're just supposed to represent the voters, the people, and I think we get what we vote for. And some of you who said you didn't vote, well, then you got what you voted for too. We need to pay more attention to our government, because our government is necessary in deadly times like this, where we're locking down the island and quarantining the world. This is what government can do and sometimes maybe must do, but the question is for how long and for what reason. So this is where the rubber meets the road. Our legislature has been able to stay home and not get paid for much of this pandemic, and I'm happy to see that they've started to, I think, do some of their legislative work with the budget. That's their big job, and I think they are working diligently to try to help fund the next government cycle. But I'm very concerned about public health, and I'm very concerned about the Guam Memorial Hospital, which the public auditor has declared is not sustainable, more than likely. It's a nice way of saying that it probably is broke. I find it hard to believe, though, because apparently they were very diligent at the hospital and were able to collect more than $90 million from the people of Guam. They actually collected more than $90 million cash, and I think any company on Guam that can collect $90 million in a year has a really good chance of succeeding if they don't spend more than $90 million. And that's where I think our senators have failed us when they reviewed the Guam Memorial Hospital budget or any of the government's budget, and none of them seem to worry about the fact that we seem to have a very fat payroll that we can't pay for, and they were worrying about how we were going to pay them extra to come in and do their jobs during the pandemic. Not a single senator criticized the government for continuing to pay people to stay home and do nothing. Meanwhile, there's a lot of work that obviously needs to be done. So my ask on this show, because this is the show of Tall Tales, is how can we more effectively get our maligned legislature to hold our governor and executive branch accountable and demand transparency so that we as the people may be able to make a better decision about who to elect for our next legislature in November. What say ye, sir?
Well, I want to look past the election, and my fix is that we got to start looking for senators from a different pool. We can't constantly elect people that are part of the political establishment and expect that they're going to act any differently than they do. We need to get people from the real world, from the civil society, from the economy to come in to a part-time legislature, then I think we'll see some improvement. But if we keep electing people who run for senator because they're looking for a good job, this is what we get. We get Luis Muñoz.
Oh, ouch. So that, I guess that was us, because, I mean, again, this was the same people that you're speaking to that elected that last group of folks. So maybe we also need to get different voters, because the same voters keep voting for the same people. There's a lot of people out there who think it's a badge of honor to be a citizen and maybe pay taxes but not vote. We didn't see 100% participation in the voter block. I'm not blaming anybody. I don't disagree with what you're saying completely. I will say that we will get what we vote for. I think the American electorate at least has a genuine chance of having an honest election, better than most. But if you don't vote, then you're going to probably get what you voted for.
Well, the way we're set up here, Vince, we've got kind of a catch-22. The only crop that we get to choose from are the same old political operatives that run every time, different faces, same MO. And because they want to hang on to what they got, they are not going to come forward with a part-time legislature. So until we figure out how to crack that nut so that we have people from the civil society in office in a part-time legislature, the chances are, I mean, the choices are really kind of no choice at all in many cases.
All right, I'm gonna try to stay positive despite that bit of almost pessimistic observation. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I do hope that we as a community will be able to get better than we've been getting. We do need to protect our healthcare system. This pandemic doesn't care what our politics is. And if you don't believe me, talk to the people in Houston. They don't have any more ICU beds. Their government promised them the pursuit of happiness, and right now they're pursuing the right not to die. And California looks like they're about to soil their diapers. This pandemic isn't kidding, and anybody thinks this is some sort of political game is about to get a very thorough education in public health. So stay tuned. This is about to get interesting.
Okay, Vince, I can leave on an optimistic note, and that is that Ray says this is the worst legislature he's ever seen. So that, in that
just
case,
wait till next year.
Well, if that's the case, maybe there's only one way to go, and that's up. Thanks for calling, Vince.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Thank you, sir.
Short break, and then I'm coming back to Ken.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro in Hagåtña and Tumon are now open for takeout and free delivery services in selected locations. For more information, call 479-2652 or 3 or 969-2652. Open Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro brings you island hospitality with the true taste of modern Chamorro cuisine at the comforts of your own home. They take your favorite local dishes and serve them with extra flair you will only find at Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Horizon Properties. Call 646-7616 or 777-7792. You can also visit them at horizonpropertiesguam.com.
Seventh inning stretch, Wrigley Field, Chicago. Nobody in the ballpark, nobody on the field. And when I look at the Stack VIP, I see Ken waiting there he's waiting in the green room, his turn to come on stage. So come on board, Ken.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Judge. Far be it from me to ration, with this Munya debacle or whatever we want to call it. I'm not trying to rationalize her genuine mistake but I seem to have heard when this stimulus thing was coming out that the cutoff earnings or the cutoff pay is 75. If you're making more than 75,000, then you're not qualified. And so maybe that's where she made her genuine mistake.
Different program, Ken. That program was the one where somebody's going to send you a check for $1,500. That was not that was everybody. It wasn't an unemployment program. But
I mean, my mistake. I'm referring to not the stimulus, the $1,500, but this leg up for losing your job, which is what the senator was applying for. I don't know. Obviously, she's not making $75,000 a year, and she did lose some employment because of the lockdowns. Know that maybe that's the source of her genuine mistake. I'm not trying to give her a free pass or rationalize it. Maybe I'm just naive. Please clarify that for me, Judge.
The 75 was for the stimulus, that you would get a $1,500 check if your adjusted gross income was less than $75,000. If it was more, then it phased out. The unemployment payments are for people that had jobs that lost, that had no work or whose hours were reduced, and you had to report all of your income. So I don't give people the benefit of the doubt. That's one of the rules on Tall Tales, because that statement means that the facts that someone is telling you don't sound right, but you're going to go along with what that person says anyhow. But let's put it this way. If a person is in the legislature and is not perceptive enough to know how that unemployment system works, what else is it that she's going to be unaware of when she's supposed to be making laws that affect 160,000 people?
True. I mean, it is a faux pas, and, I'm glad that she owned up to it, and, but, in my naivete, I thought maybe she's just as naive as I am. Thank God that I'm not a senator or a legislator. Otherwise, we'll be in a world of trouble. Anyways, Judge, thank you very much for your thoughts, and keep up the good work. You have a good afternoon, sir.
Nice talking to you, Ken. Thank you very much for calling.
You too. Bye.
Let's see. I've got I got Jimmy and Peter. Since Jimmy's already had one ride on the Ferris wheel, I'm going to go to Peter first and then come back to Jimmy. Good afternoon, Peter.
Hey, Bob. Thank you for taking my call.
Okay.
going to go off topic here. I'm not going to discuss any points that you put out on Jimmy Cotney.
Okay.
I wanted to just find your views on what I was listening to earlier on not in your program, but on the Rush show earlier.
Yeah, Rush does the warm up for Tall Tales. Yeah.
So I was really bothered by his his comments, and of course you can't explain his comments, but about multiculturalism destroying America, and this is not what the founding fathers was intended for, or whatever. I mean, I was really just like listening to his whole show. I was like, is this guy really saying something like this? I mean, what do you think? I mean, Bob, multiculturalism.
Well,
destroying America.
What do we mean?
What are your thoughts on?
Okay, what do we mean by multiculturalism? What does that term mean?
I can give you a definition.
I beg your pardon?
No, I said I can give you a definition of what it stands for, but I mean, I know, Bob, you can't explain what Rush is talking about, but it's just really crazy how you put it out there. It says multiculturalism in America is destroying America.
Well, I unfortunately wasn't listening this afternoon.
Oh, okay.
But I'll chime in anyhow. I'll go at it. I'll dive in head first. I'll tell you what's destroying America right now. It's called identity politics. That's what's destroying the country. So that we have this identity politics brought to us by cultural Marxists who would tell you that everybody in the country belongs to an identity group. And there are two kinds of identity groups, the oppressors and the oppressed. So everybody fits into at least one identity group. And oftentimes it depends on color, ethnicity, etc. But no matter how you slice it, white male European Christians are always the oppressor. And the oppressed are all of the other identity groups. And that's what we're seeing right now going on in the United States. Is this whole Antifa, Black Lives Matter is the the cultural Marxist identity politics writ large. Now going back to the founders, the idea of America was that everybody came from somewhere else, except for the Indians. So the idea was that America was a melting pot, that you had people coming from all over the place. They were not of the same race, they weren't same culture, same language, same religion, or anything else. The one thing that united the country was an idea or a set of ideals, and that was that people could govern themselves. They didn't need kings or super powerful people to govern them. They could govern themselves, and that the job of the government was to secure or to protect the individual rights and freedom of every man. And every man's rights and freedoms don't come from the government, they come from God. That was the beginning idea of America. So we had this melting pot. So, I'm sitting here, if I were to go back to my roots, I'd have to cut myself up into 4 pieces, which I suspect that probably some people would think would be a good idea. But I'd have to send one part to Scotland and another part to England and another part to Germany and another part to Denmark, because that's where all my forebears came from. Bragging a little bit, my great-grandfather, Charles Klitzkie, fought in the 13th Wisconsin Volunteers in the Civil War to free the slaves. But anyhow, that was the idea, and one of the strengths of the United States used to be that if a person who was Chinese came to the United States, he could be made into an American, or his family would become Americans. The Chinese can't do that. The Chinese can't take people from other places and have them become Chinese. So that was the idea that the country started on, and this whole idea of identity politics, it's the worst, I think, in my 81 years. This is a really scary situation that we're in, with identity politics taking over almost all of the big cities in the country, and governments throwing in the towel, not even trying. Now, if that's what multiculturalism means, that's it. If multiculturalism means that in the United States, people in a free country are free to observe such cultural traditions as they want to, in such a manner as they want to, then fine, if that's what it means. But I don't think that's what it means anymore. I think it means identity politics nowadays, Peter.
You know, Bob, thank you. I mean, that makes a whole lot of sense. And, you know, growing up in the States and growing up here, I mean, I see it's cultures collide. And when I was growing up back there, I mean, I felt I was being judged. I was being picked on. You know, I felt the racist of people not understanding who I am or where I come from, and knowing that I am an American. You know, I have generations of family members who served in the military, and that's the reason why I was back there, is because my dad served in the Army.
Okay.
And, you know, believe it or not, I mean, I wish it goes back. We can go back to that. You know, where we can just that is what America is about. You know, it's land of the opportunity, home, you know, for the free, and you know, for people to live their life the way they wish. But today the show with the Rush kind of like it threw me off too, because and then he brought up about a point where a white female would go to college and get brainwashed with multiculturalism. I was like, well, what does he mean by that?
Well, maybe what Rush was trying to say is identity politics, because that's what has happened, that the colleges and universities have been nests of neo-Marxism who are introducing, well, not introducing, it's been around for a long time, but fomenting what amounts to the threshold of a revolution, and that's what you see going on in the country right now.
Exactly, and you know, you got, it's from all walks of life, all groups. You know, you have the white supremacy, or you have the Antifa group. You know, to me, it's just old nonsense, and we just need to knock it off and get back to having some common sense. And just let's just live.
Good points. Thank you for calling, Peter.
Thank you, Bob, for explaining everything.
Okay. So it's a good, I wish I'd have listened to Rush Limbaugh, but this identity politics thing is exactly ruining the country. And this Orwellian new politically correct language that we're all supposed to learn. If I would tell you what I just said, if a woke individual were listening to what I just said was hate speech. And anytime you hear hate speech is violence. So any knucklehead who felt like it could stand outside the door and hit me over the head with a brick, and I should say, well, I got what I deserved, because what I told Peter was hate speech, because I don't back that neo-Marxist, ultra-leftist agenda that I am somehow an oppressor and that everybody else is part of the oppressed. I got to just take a minute here, R. Carl and Jimmy. I'll get to you in a second. But from time to time, I lament to the real Joe Cruz, in addition to the stuff that he screws up. I lament to him about that. But I also lament that there are so many words that I don't know the meaning of anymore. Starting out with T-H-E-Y, I used to know exactly what that word, the word they, meant. Now, I don't know what it means. I don't know who it refers to, how many people it refers to, etc. Same thing, racism. I used to know what racism was. Racism has two elements, prejudice and discrimination. Prejudice means this, that you judge a person, you judge them in accordance with some stereotypes that you've developed. So you develop these stereotypes and you say, well, if this person fits into that group, so stereotypically he would be this. Now, I'm not going to offend anybody, but let's say Martians. Well, that person...
Did you say Martians, sir?
Yeah, Martians. So, everybody knows that Martians are dishonest. So if you're around in a crowd of Martians, grab your billfold, grab your wallet, and hold it tight. That's the first element of racism, prejudice, that you judge someone based on his race or his ethnicity or something like that, not an objective judgment. So that's prejudice. And then once you have categorized that person in accordance with your prejudices, the other half of racism is discriminate against him. Well, because Martians are dishonest, they should never have any money. So if a Martian works for me, I don't have to pay him because he's a Martian and he's dishonest. That's what racism used to mean. It used to mean prejudice and discrimination. It doesn't mean that anymore at all. Racism means not buying the entire neo-Marxist line about oppressors and oppressed and identity groups. And if you don't buy the whole thing and you say anything that indicates you don't, guess what you are, Real Joe Cruz?
Woke?
A racist. So you could either be woke or you could be a racist. So by that definition, I'm a racist because I don't buy, as with my explanation here with Peter, I don't buy this stuff. It is loaded with pretexts to advance an agenda that has nothing to do with race and everything to do with Marxism. Okay, so much for that. I'm going to go to R. Carl, and then I'll come. Wait a minute, R. Carl's had one ride too, hasn't he? Okay, well let's break. We'll break for the home stretch, and then we'll let R. Carl and maybe we'll let R. Carl and Jimmy ride together.
As we emerge from the effects of the global pandemic, Security Title is rethinking how to best serve our customers. With our houses clean and closets reorganized, here's a reminder to take a look at the title to your house and other real estate. Is your trust in order? Is it time to update your wills? Do you have the best interest rate available on your home? As we get back to work, there's no better time to revisit your most valuable asset, your property. Call the professionals at Security Title. We are here to help.
Everyone has a busy schedule these days, and sometimes we forget to schedule our routine dental checkup and cleaning. Don't neglect your dental health. Schedule one today with Dr. Robert Yang and his Smile Team, conveniently located at the East West Business Center on Marine Drive, Upper Tumon. Call us today at 647-8702 or 3. Again, that's 647-8702 or 647-8703. We make smiles happen.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
So here we are in the home stretch. Boy, I guess I scared Jimmy.
Maybe you didn't want to ride together with Carl.
Yeah, I think I scared Jimmy because I said Jimmy and Carl have both ridden on the Ferris wheel. So this time maybe they could ride together. And what happens? Jimmy hangs up. I don't think it would be that bad, would it, Carl?
I'm kind of offended by that. He didn't want to ride with me.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's offended these days, so I'm offended by that.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, Jimmy's back. I guess he figured it's safe. I put you in a car in the Ferris wheel, and the Ferris wheel's going around now. He won't have to ride with you. Soon as I get him on the air, I'm going to ask him about deodorant, okay?
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to weigh in quickly on this idea of multiculturalism. There's a great quote by our favorite economist and social philosopher Thomas Sowell about multiculturalism, and he says what multiculturalism boils down to is that you can praise any culture in the world except Western culture, and you cannot blame any culture in the world except Western culture. So it's a particular way of targeting, but for the Marxists and the neo-Marxists, to target the Western civilization and Western culture. Another term that means the same thing is cultural relativism. All cultures are the same. You know, there's a culture, there's a part of India that they used to practice throwing widows into the fires of their dead husbands, you know, when their bodies were being burned.
Sati.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't criticize that because that's, you know, that's...
It's cultural,
racist.
yeah.
Exactly. And it brought to mind a great piece by, a great couple of paragraphs by, it's perfect illustration of the potential of multiculturalism to do tremendous damage in a book by Thomas Sowell. And if I could just quickly read that, because it is absolutely perfect. These patterns suggest that some catalyst may be needed to arouse the feelings behind the horrors. And of course, no one advance when any such catalyst may arise, even in the most tranquil settings, where that catalyst appears in the form of a particular episode or a particular skilled or talented demagogue. Sri Lanka, for example, was in the middle of the 20th century, rightly held up to the world as a model for good relations between majority and minority. Its main ethnic groups were seen by observers both inside and outside the country as having good and even cordial relations with one another. There had been no riot between the Sinhalese majority and the Tamil minority during the previous half-century. The educated and westernized elites of both groups lived peacefully in the same westernized residential enclaves. Nevertheless, within a decade after Sri Lanka emerged from British rule as an independent nation in 1948, an ambitious politician named Solomon Bandaranaike, seeking the prime ministership by turning the Sinhalese majority against the more prosperous Tamil minority, set in motion polarizations that escalated into mob violence and then civil war that lasted a quarter of a century with unspeakable atrocities on both sides. Bandaranaike was the catalyst. I think that's perfect. A perfect illustration of what happens when these demagogues get in the middle and start stirring up hatred of one group toward another. And we see it happening on the mainland, and we see it happening locally. So, you know, this, by the way, is read from Thomas Sowell's book, Wealth, Poverty, and Politics, which is just a wonderful book. But so Sri Lanka is just a perfect example of what happens. These people were living peacefully with each other, no riots, no killings, nothing. And then one demagogue gets in the middle of it and starts stirring up resentment and hatred, and you have, I think this violence is still going on to this day.
That's an interesting concept, Carl.
Yeah, well, anyway, that's my piece. I'll let you talk with Jimmy and ask him why was he offended by my lack of deodorant or something? I'm not sure.
I'll get to the bottom of it, Carl. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Hold on. So, Jimmy, you didn't want to ride in the Ferris wheel with Carl?
No, I was just trying to... you know, all politics, I just want to know, what's the word mean? You know, all politics are local.
That's what Tip O'Neill said.
Is that who said that?
Tip O'Neill, yep.
Who did he copy it from?
Well, he's a Democrat, so he must have copied it from somebody.
Well, yeah. But anyway, I got 3 words. Corruption, and the other 2 I can't really pronounce very well because I don't have the identity. Corruption, pari or pari.
Corruption, and what's the second one?
Corruption.
Yeah.
Perry, or is it pronounced Pari?
Pari? Yeah.
It's pronounced Pari?
Pari, yeah.
And does that lead to corruption?
Let me explain. In the Catholic religion, children have godfathers and godmothers. And it's an extremely important relationship. The godfather and the godmother are supposed to provide a Christian upbringing for the child should his parents pass away. So it's an important...
Yeah, I saw that movie.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief, Jimmy, then you won't have to interrupt, okay? So the godfather relationship is extremely important. So in Spanish, the word for godfather, a male godfather, would be compadre. And that gets compadre. And that gets in Chamorro. Let me continue, Jimmy. The word is, in Spanish, it's compadre. That gets, in Chamorro, that comes out as pari. So your pari is the godfather of your child, or you are the godfather of his child. That's the technical meaning of the word pari. But pari can be just a friendly greeting. Hey, off a pari, meaning, hello, friend, how are you? So when people talk about the pari system, they're talking about a system that really isn't grounded in the godfather-godmother relationship, but in some other form of relationship that exists outside the meritocracy. Aren't you glad you asked, Jimmy?
Oh, yeah. But I'm just glad you're not going to cut me off right now.
Do you want me to?
It's your show.
Well, did you have something else? Did you have something else you wanted to say?
Well, you forgot about the word corruption. And how does corruption tie into parrying?
Okay, I can explain that too. Now you remember in the local the way we speak here on Guam, we use the word pari in several different contexts, but one of which is we talk about the pari system, which means an undertaking that would exist outside the merit system of the government, outside the meritocracy.
Tina Rose Junior Barnes?
So, as an example, you would have a job that's available, say, maybe at the port, right? In order to get that job, there would be certain qualifications. So the person who puts together the selection committee sets it up in such a manner that the person who is not the best qualified but has good connections gets the job. That's how the so-called pari system ties into corruption. It's just a word to identify what can happen anywhere. It doesn't necessarily have to be here, but it's a word to identify schemes to obtain a result that a system would not allow.
What kind of a system?
Well, a governmental system, as an example. In our governmental system, we theoretically have a merit system, Jimmy.
Yeah, that's why when a cop rapes somebody, they go to the FBI, not Guam.
Okay, I got to go, Jimmy. You call tomorrow. We can talk about it a little bit more tomorrow, okay? So long.
As you wish.